Hello, everybody. Welcome to our positive parenting session. Today on this call, we have Monira, my colleague and co-founder of Blue Blogs, and we have also Mrudula on call today, who will also be co-leading with us. Mrudula is our elementary coordinator. So let's begin with some questions. Would you like to ask anything? Would you like to share anything? Anything from our last sessions or anything you would like to share while others are joining? Right. Nobody has anything to share or anything to ask or anything you would want me to specifically speak about. Any questions about, any particular insight you want about your child's development? No? All right. All right. So we'll begin with the child development, particularly from 0 to 1. Munira, can you please share the Word document? All right.
Yes, Pawan, I'll be sharing it in a minute.
So while Munira is opening the Word document, let's understand some insights the about the child before even the child is born. Some insights into the baby while in the womb. In the very in the period when the baby is in the womb, the fetus is in the womb. When the fetus is 8 months old, the fetus ear is developed, and the fetus can listen to mother's heartbeat, mother's voice, and any other sound which mother is speaking. And if father is speaking to the baby close to the abdomen, then the fetus can also listen to father's voice as well. During this period, mother singing, mother listening to music has a deep impact on the baby. So if mother has been singing some songs consistently during that period, post birth, whenever the child is disturbed, and if the mother sings those songs, it has a deep soothing impact on the child. At around 5 months in the womb, the fetus moves its lips whenever the mother is speaking. Whenever the mother is speaking, fetus also moves its lips. So we recommend that mothers can read a lot of Sanskrit slokas or any of your religious text. Like if you look at Sanskrit, is very rich phonetically and it's very challenging to articulate. So whatever mother is speaking, the fetus is also trying to move its speech organs accordingly. That if mother is reading out these Sanskrit slokas like Udvamula Madashakam Ashwadhyam Prahuravyayam Chandansyasya Paranani Yastam Veda Savedavi. If the mother is reading out, reciting these slokas, the way the mother's speech organs are moving, the fetus speech organs are also moving in sync with the mother. At around 5 months, the fetus is kicking in the womb at around 5 to 6 months, and mother can literally play. Whenever the fetus is kicking, mother can respond back at the same time. So you can start playing with the little one right in the womb. So post birth, the whole birthing process is emotionally very challenging for the fetus. The fetus, who's now a baby, to become that baby, the baby has to give up all the comfort it had while the baby was in the womb. In the womb, everything was taken care by the mother. Mother eats, baby gets the food. Mother is exposed to the sunlight, baby gets the sunlight. Mother is breathing, baby gets the oxygen. Mother is happy, baby feels happy. So the fetus is totally in sync with what mother is going through, what mother is speaking, the emotion mother is going through. Mother is happy, mother is releasing some endorphins, and the fetus is getting to experience. So that post-birthing process, post-birthing, that whole birthing process is so painful for the child that all that comfort the child has to give up. Now the child knows that he needs to give up all that comfort because this is a whole different phase of growth now. Whatever growth was possible in the womb, it's done. And now the baby has to come out to further grow. Now, the whole growth process, whatever growth we talk about, whether we talk about physical growth, linguistic development, emotional growth, social growth, intellectual development, none of it comes very, none of it happens very sweetly. Everything happens with a certain amount of challenge, with a certain amount of struggle, with a certain amount of effort on the child side. And in this process, emotionally, if you look at, there was total attachment in the womb. Now, the birthing process is the detachment. Now, the baby is detached. When that umbilical cord is cut, the baby is now detached with the mother. So, what we recommend is post birth, we recommend that before the doctor cuts that umbilical cord, mother should hold the baby and hold the baby close to the chest. The fetus knows mother's smell, the fetus knows mother's touch, and the fetus also knows mother's voice. So the mother holding the baby close to the chest and holding baby at least for a couple of minutes gives a reassurance to the child that yes, I am with my mother. And then when you cut the umbilical cord, it is not shocking emotionally. Otherwise, suddenly the child is disconnected with the mother and totally lost, totally disconnected from the mother. Now, in the first couple of months, the baby only needs the mother. The baby does not need anybody else. While the father can hold the baby, spend some time, but what the baby really needs is just the mother in the first couple of months. That is the time for the mother and child's bonding. That is the time where the child wants total attention of mother without any deviation, without any kind of disturbance. The baby wants unconditional attention of the mother. In that process, the emotional development, the bonding between the child and the mother becomes stronger and stronger. So, from the emotional development perspective, we got to totally accept the baby, whether it's a baby boy or baby girl. I know this generation parents are totally accepting, but we know sometimes at home the grandparents have certain expectation of wanting to have a baby boy or a baby girl. So we got to ensure that everybody is totally accepting the baby. Otherwise, children can get a sense of how he or she is being accepted or not. Now, in the first year, one of the major development which is happening is the oral phase of development. In the first year, anything you give to the child, you will see the child wants to put things in the mouth. Now, culturally, we do not encourage children putting things in mouth, isn't it? Anything the child puts in mouth, we try and take it away. Now, when you keep taking away anything and everything, the child finally ends up sucking the thumb. Now, this you cannot take it away. Now, children are not interested in really just sucking the thumb. That's not what they're interested in. What they're interested in is that they want to explore the world with the mouth. They want different and interesting objects to be able to put in mouth. So this pedagogy, Montessori philosophy, understand that need and has designed a lot of interesting material which you can give to the child for holding and putting in mouth so that it is safe. It's not too big to not be able to put in, not too small which the child can swallow. Now, the more different interesting objects we offer to the child to be able to hold and put in mouth, to that extent we are supporting this oral phase of development. Now, if that development is not happening enough in the first year, this is what leads to children ending up trying to get much more stimulation. Like a lot of adults who smoke can also be connected to the unfulfilled oral phase in the very first year. Let's look at language development in the first year. With regard to language development, at birth, the child can only make the sounds of crying. At around 2 months, the child starts making vowel sounds saying ah, oo, e. At around 7, 8 months, the child starts adding consonants to vowels. That's when the child starts saying baba, dada, and one fine day the child says mama. You know, how does the mother react? The moment the child says mama, mama is like, wow, you said mama. And the child is wondering what happened. The child is shocked, but mother is so happy and excited. Next time again the child is saying that sound mama, and he or she goes again, hey, you said mama. See, he said mama. Now slowly the child starts to understand that whenever I make this sound mama, this lady feels happy. And that's when they start to respond. So when children are making these sounds, adults' role is to respond, repeat, and reinforce these sounds. The more we respond, repeat, and reinforce these sounds, the better the child will start to hold those sounds and practice more and more. Now, when children are making these sounds, normally with most of the adults, we are not interested in children making these sounds. All that we want is children speaking big words like Czechoslovakia. Why babbling? We don't want babbling children. We want speaking children. But the child knows that he or she needs to master those sounds before they are getting ready to speak in words and sentences. So that's where they keep practicing and keep repeating. At around 12 months, the child speaks his or her first intentional word. In the first year, the child can speak. The child can speak 6 to 7 words at the end of 12 months, but the child has the understanding of more than 60 to 70 words. So with language development, you will always see a huge gap between how much the child understands and how much the child is able to speak. The child will never be able to speak all the words he or she knows, but they always know way more than how much they can speak. At around 1.5 years, children have this newfound interest with objects. Children figure out that every object has a name in the environment. This is the time where they get into this what period. Everything is what is this? What is this? They'll point out at different parts of your face and ask you, what is this? What is this? So there is a huge hunger to know the names of anything and everything. If you look at your home environment, you will have couple of thousands of objects at home, and that is the opportunity to build vocabulary of your child. You can have every real object, whatever objects you can't find, you can use books for that. So this is the phase between 1.5 to 3.5. Children have immense sensitivity to learn vocabulary. So we got to keep giving them as much vocabulary as possible. Now, the way we would give the vocabulary is, if you have to show this and say that this is a scale or ruler, then for a 1.5 year old, this is what I would do. Ruler. I would give this object to the child and say ruler. At 1.5, all that child interested in is knowing the name of this object. The same vocabulary, if I'm giving it to a 2.5 year old, then this is what I would do. At 2.5 years, I would say, this is a ruler. This is a ruler. Because by the time the child is to the grammatical part in the brain starts to develop, and here children need to listen to sentences much more than earlier. So here, if you have noticed, this is what I did. I said, this is a ruler. I highlighted the word ruler. So because the primary context is still to give the vocabulary of this object, but children also need to know the whole grammatical sentence about what is this. So for language development between 1 to 4 years, you should be doing a lot of singing, and you can do singing where there's a lot of physical activity, physical actions involved. Only singing without action, these young children are not that interested, because there is very strong need for movement as well. So let's look at the physical development from 1 to 4 years. At one, children start to walk. Between 1 and 4, there is very, very high sensitivity for movement. Children start to walk, then they are running, they are jumping, they are skipping, they are doing every possible thing with movement. At around 1 to 1.5, you would notice how your young child would want to keep climbing something and the child would get down, climb again and get down. When the child is going to the sensitivity for movement, there is a lot of urge to practice and repeat that particular movement. So children would keep doing a lot of movement at this point of time. So to support the motor coordination, with fine motor coordination, we do speak about a lot of practical life activities, every activity at home with regard to they're taking care of themselves, they're taking care of the environment, involving them on food activities. This would take care of their fine motor coordination. Now, with things like running, jumping, walking, there are a lot of interesting variations you can create. And in this current scenario of lockdown, you can do a lot of gross motor activity with 1 to 4 years right at home. So I'll take one example and give you a few interesting variations with that. So with something very simple like walking, there are a lot of interesting variations we can create. We all understand how they walk straight, put some cones and then get them to do zigzag walk, get them to walk on certain steep area, they walk and they get down, walking backwards, walking sideways. Then give them an object, give them a big object and ask them to walk holding this big object, going forward big object, going backward holding this big ball and walking sideways. So with every Montessori kind of activity we introduce with children, one of the golden rules in Montessori is we always start with something very simple and keep increasing the complexity. We never introduce with something very complex because once children fail, then they wouldn't want to go back. So we want to set up children for success. We want to set them up for huge success. So always give them something which they can do. And once they're able to do it, once they master it, then increase the challenge. Then further increase the challenge. At around 2.5, with regard to their emotional development, there is a very strong bonding and attachment with family. But anywhere between 2.5, when they start going to preschool, that's the time when the child, it is time for that healthy separation again from home environment to the school environment. Like how at the time of birth, the child had to get out of mother's womb because mother's womb was not enough for the child's learning, development, and growth. Similarly, at around 2.5, the home environment does not stimulate the child's intellectual, social, emotional development. That's when we are putting the child into a school. Now, this transition has to happen as smoothly as possible. So at Blue Blocks, we do this transition from home environment to school environment in a very, very smooth manner. One of the parent will be inside the campus till the child is settled, so that the child know the parent is not gifted me to this school and went away. The child will know that, this is a place where I come with mama and then go back home, come with mama and go back home. And in this process, children start to develop that healthy bonding with the teacher. And once that bond happens, then slowly the parent starts to leave the child at the gate. So, is there any development aspect? Yeah, let's look at social development. See, for the social development, children need to be with peer group right from when they are 1.5. By the time they are 2.5, the need for peer group is so strong that this is the time where they definitely want to be with their friends. So why schooling? One of the reasons why we cannot avoid schooling is because they need to be with the peer group in a structured environment where they follow the rules of the environment, where they learn how to follow the rules of socializing. And that need is so strong that if we cut off with that social peer group involvement, then they would develop a lot of inhibition and discomfort with regard to their social development. So for them to be able to socially developing and for them to become more socially adapt, what we need to focus on is their social independence, which means they should be able to follow certain basic social rules, which we spoke about last week. Some of the very basic social rules that they're not hitting others, they're not snatching other stuff, they're not pushing others, and they're waiting for their turn. These rules, it is our responsibility as parents and educators to ensure that our children follow some of these basic rules. Let's look at intellectual development in the first year. In the first year, the child's absorbent mind is so strong that the child is absorbing anything and everything. This is the phase where the child is absorbing, and you see very little motor coordination from lying down to the child shifting on from back to the other position. This is the time where children start to sit, crawl, and walk. So in this whole process, the motor coordination, the movement really supports lot of neurological development. So the child is absorbing the whole environment in the first year. Between 1 and 4, this intellectual development is happening big time. This is the time where the foundation of the intellect, the foundation for the future intellect is laid down. Between 1 and 4, there's a lot of sensorial stimulation which the child needs for that intellectual growth. Lot of exploring of the environment needs to happen at home. And once the child has explored the environment sensorially, between 2.5 to 4, we start to refine those senses: the sense of color, the sense of touch, the sense of dimension, sense of hearing. We have different Montessori material for each of these senses for us to refine their senses. So it is the sensorial development between 1 and 4, with a lot of pairing activities, sorting activities, and grading activities, becomes the foundation of the future intellect which is going to happen. So that's what we have to share about 0 to 1 and 1 to 4. From 4 to 6 years, I would like Munira to address.
Right. Thank you so much, Pawan. That was quite an insightful foundation that you've laid for 0 to 1 years, starting from even before birth. We now understand that development has already began from the moment you come to know that you're expecting a baby. So there is a very huge responsibility on us as parents to support this development and to keep taking it forward at every stage. The reason that we have divided the age groups today is for you to understand that depending on how old your child is, there are some significant developments that are happening in that particular age alone. And if we miss out on this time, the development which happens after this time is over can be very painful and will happen with a lot of difficulty and challenge. So let's catch them at the right age, and let's identify the developments that are happening at this particular age and support it at the right moment. So that's the reason we have divided the ages and given you a more holistic approach to the different developments. So let's look at the 4 to 6 year age group. Now, this is the time where children are going through a lot of changes in their overall personality. So the personality that children have is more or less developed by the time they're 6 years of age. And 4 to 6 years of age is a time of consolidation. This is the time that everything that they have been listening to, everything that they are being exposed to, everything that they are handling, everything that they are learning is now getting consolidated. So all the years of complete silence, like sometimes you ask a question to your child and you don't hear anything back, all that is going to get broken from 4 years of age. Now child will start sharing a lot more. Their language development is at a stage where they can form multiple sentences, they can have a decent conversation with an adult, and you can make sense of most of their conversations. So let's look at their physical development. So by 4, physically their balance has been developed. Their complete myelinization, which is nothing but the connection between the brain and every part of the body, is complete by 4 years of age. Now is the time that child is going to utilize all this physical development. So their balance is in place, their eye hand coordination is quite good by now, and now they need to utilize these skills in real life. So I would take an extension from what Pawan shared in the 1 to 4 years of age, that a lot of practical life activities have to be introduced to children, which most of it they are now able to take over independently at this age. So I would say practical life development, Practical. Oh my God, what's with my spells? Okay. Practical life activities that we are talking about, which help in the consolidation of uh, all the fine motor skills as well as the gross motor skills. So, what happens when children start going to a school? They are used to moving around till they are around 3 years of age. And if a school is going to physically restrict them or have them sit in one place and work, then that goes against their movement development. So, all the activities, everything that they're doing, whether at home or in any other environment, care has to be taken that children are not restricted in terms of their movement, because physical development is still going on till 6 years. This is also the time that children are um, having growth spurts. So suddenly, their clothes will start becoming small because they're growing taller. And this is when they require a lot of good nutrition such that their overall physical development is fully taken care of. And all this development comes without any restrictions. The more we expect children to sit in one place and do an activity, the less are they prone to concentrate on them, and the less are they prone to develop the way they ought to develop. Coming to language development. So, by around 4 years, like I already mentioned, that spoken language is fully developed. And this is the time that children are ready to express themselves graphically. So, here is when writing needs to be introduced to children. And for writing, we have already spoken about how an enriched vocabulary that child is developing between 1.5 to 3.5 years of age is going to come handy to the child. And the more we want children to begin or to write with joy and with satisfaction is when we get them to write what they want to write, rather than they copying from somewhere and they writing scientifically. So, to be able to write scientifically, children need to first have an enriched vocabulary and then know all the sounds which make up the English language or any language that they're working with. They should also know how words come together to form words, how letters or sounds come together to form words. And then they should also know how to identify the letters of an alphabet. They should know how to reproduce the letters with their hands, such that at around 4 years of age, writing happens like an explosion and they start writing what they want to write rather than, getting them to write what somebody else has written. So, because in the first 6 years, most of their time is spent being egocentric by nature, they are not ready to accept what somebody else has written at 4 years of age. That acceptance comes at around 5 when they are ready for reading. And reading can only happen when child has spoken enough and written enough. With that background, reading begins at around 5 years of age. Normally, we have seen that children are asked to read at a very young age. But reading at a young age only means that the adults should be reading to children, and children are not expected to read till they are 5.5 years of age. And when they begin reading at 5.5, initially their reading is very mechanical. Like they may identify the sounds in a word or they may identify the letters in a word, but they may not be able to formulate the word and make complete sense out of it. So the mechanical reading goes on for at least 6 months before interpretive reading happens, which helps them identify the sounds or letters, string it together to make words, and also understand what they are reading. So till about 6 years of age, reading is still just is beginning, and writing and spoken language are still getting consolidated. So what is happening emotionally at this age? So this is the time where children are able to express themselves. So one of the major emotional developments that happen at this age is children are understanding, getting in touch with their emotions and their feelings, and are able to share their thoughts and emotions and feelings with the adults. So this is the time that children require parents to really, really listen to them. This is the time when children will come back from school and share everything that happened in school. I mean, they may want to share all the experiences they have had. And over a period of time, the more the parents listen to children, the more the parents give that acknowledgement that they're there for the children and they're listening to them all the time, the more children keep sharing and that bond keeps getting created. This is also the time that children will be creating a lot of bonds outside their home. And like Pawan rightly mentioned, that their need for peer group is only increasing. And this needs to be supplemented with a lot of outdoor activities that children can do, along with a group of other children, other people of either his age group or multiple age groups combined together. So, emotionally, right now, children need you to listen to them, and that will ensure a good emotional relationship between the parents. Now when we listen to children, we will be listening to a lot of things that have really happened in their day, and this is also the time that they will make up a lot of stories, because they are emotionally, trying out a lot of things. They are figuring out whether, when they say something which didn't really happen, do people believe them or no. And they are also probably looking at a lot of things outside the house and relating themselves to those experiences and situations. For example, if two children have had a fight and your child is exposed to that particular experience, then there is a possibility that the child may come home and say that today somebody hit me or I hit somebody, which is something which didn't really happen to your child but happened to somebody else. So please do not think that children are lying, because they are not capable of lying, but they are capable of making up a lot of stories. And this is nothing but an emotional exploration of their intellectual capacities, of the capacities of sensorial absorption that they have right now. So all children require is for you to listen, and listen without any judgments. That's very, very important. Moving on to social development. Yes, the friends and the outside society is becoming more important to children. Friends become, like an extension to family. They cannot imagine their world without their friends. But this is not the time that they can't live without their friends. They will want to come back home. So your family structure, your family unit is still a very integral anchor for your child to come back to every day, and to share a lot of the experiences he or she is having outside the house. But friends are equally important. So having a good social life, like, right now I know the times are not about talking about having a social life, it is about social distancing. But the more the family is socially active, which means that if you have a lot of friends, like if parents have a lot of friends, if parents are in constant touch with their friends, even now, like, with everybody being in their own homes, as long as you demonstrate that you have very good relationship with your friends, that you check on them, that you ask how they are doing, you see how to support each other, that is what your children are going to pick up right now. Because while they are in a social group, they are not fully ready to follow every social norm or every social rule. They are also, they're somewhere in between that egocentric nature as well as social life. So they are kind of all the time at times they are, they feel very comfortable with their friends. At times they'll very comfortably share their toys and their things. At the very next moment they are not ready to do it. So you need to understand that their social development is not fully complete right now. It is like they are still understanding the social norms, the social rules, and very gradually they will understand that, okay, if I do not follow this rule, or if I do not listen to another person in a group activity, then probably I cannot participate in that activity. So, this is the only experience by which your child will understand the rules and understand the importance of those rules. Getting me? So, giving them that social circle or social life is important. Demonstrating that you as parents are also quite social, demonstrating how you show your support for your friends. And you sharing within yourselves will eventually help children to share and to start respecting the social norms. Got it? Moving on to intellectual development. So we have spoken earlier about how in the age from 0 to 6 years, the child has an absorbent mind. It is with this absorbent mind the child is learning language, movement, social behavior, all kinds of patterns, like whatever exists around him, the child is picking up with the help of this absorbent mind. Now the absorbent mind is the foundation for future intellectual development and intellectual growth. Because children are experiencing and exploring their world at a sensorial level right now, from 0 to 6 years of age, and more so in the 1 to 4 years of age, they tend to not intellectually understand everything. They understand their world sensorially more than intellectually. But from 4 years onwards, this absorbent mind starts becoming a little more conscious. This is the time that all the impressions, all the sensorial impressions that the absorbent mind has just randomly taken in, need to start getting categorized very formally, very structurally. And that is the reason we recommend that any kind of sensorial property, for example, color or dimension or shapes, the names of these aspects or the concepts of these aspects need to be given to children only after they are 3.5 years of age. So 4 years is a good time to now introduce all the colors, all the sensorial shapes through the names, because now children are able to accept it as the brain requires that categorization. Now, between 4 and 6, like I spoke earlier about how children will make up a lot of stories, one of the reasons for them doing that is because their imagination is not fully developed at this time. I mean, they don't have a very high need for imagination right now, but it is beginning somewhere in their mind. So, all the stories are also made up inside of what they may imagine and they may use. So that is a very slight intellectual development that is happening right now. All their questions from what are now moving on to how much, how many. So this is the time to introduce them to a lot of mathematics. So all the basics of numbers, all the basics of letters, all the intricacies of mathematics and language can now be given from 4 years of age with me. So that is the level of intellectual development that children have between 4 to 6 years. So I would now like to invite Brudla, who is the elementary coordinator. She takes care of the 6 to 12 year age group that we have at Blue Blocks. I would like to invite her to share about the development of 6 to 12 years of age. Brudla?
Yeah. Thank you, Munira. Thank you, Pawan, for laying that very strong foundation for our 6 to 12-year-olds to take off from, so to speak. So the 6 to 12-year age group, if you already have children of that age group, you would already start seeing the difference between what a 4-year-old was and what a 6-year-old is. But first, let me tell you what a 6 to 12-year-old age group child is. This child is somebody who's coming onto his own. He's actually now beginning to experience, he's now had the experience of being a child. He's done 6 years of being a child. He has now the experience to fall back on than how to be a child. And so now he's coming out of his cocoon, and he's now the new butterfly that is just perched on the branch, ready to take off. He's on the branch, just willing to just spread his wings now. And that's what a 6 to 12-year-old is that we need to cater to. Now, you like the butterfly that has come out of the cocoon, you can see some very, very prominent physical changes in this child as well. First of all, 6 is the age when your tooth starts falling, when the child's teeth start falling off. That's the first sign of the child moving on to a different developmental age. And then you see that the baby fat is gone, the child is more lean, there is a lot more energy. You don't know where the food is going that you're feeding him. Everything is going everywhere. I mean, you can't see the food anywhere. It's all that is going in is getting expended. There's immense amount of energy. This is the physical stamina that is very clearly categorized in this, characterized in this age group. They have immense physical stamina. And those of you who have a child in this age can relate to this, Give a child of this age a jigsaw puzzle of 2000 pieces, and they will sit with that puzzle for however long it takes to finish it. It's not just the physical stamina to run around, but the mental stamina also. They have to sit there and do a job till its fruition. That kind of a physical stamina is what we're talking about at this age group. So how do you cater to that stamina in these times of COVID? Okay, on any regular day, you can go send this child cycling, they can go swimming, they can go play football, basketball in the park. But how do we do that while sitting in our own homes? Well, you can ask the child to do skipping, or even better, this is something many parents who are very cleanliness minded may not really agree upon, but you can ask the child to develop his or her own obstacle course in the living room with cushions and pillows, where intellectually the child is preparing a game for himself, an obstacle course that he has to meander through. He needs to crawl, he needs to jump, he needs to slither his way through. All this physical stamina that he has can be expended in this way. Yes, you will have to wash the pillows covers and the cushion covers, but that's really very little work compared to the kind of physical and intellectual stimulus you can give your child with just allowing them to do this activity. Now, apart from physical stamina, the children are also, after physical stamina, these are the children who are also getting up to speak more, to talk more, to learn more. And as Munira was talking about how the questions keep changing, this is the time when, if you have a 6-year-old, again, you will identify with this very well. You get questions like, how is this happening? Why is this happening? Why can't I do this? How is it that this is happening? Now, this is where the communication comes into play. Language at this age is more used to actually express emotions rather than just needs. Until now, the child was expressing using language to ask what he wants or what she wants or what she needs. Now is a time to help the child express what she feels. And using these how and why questions, you can open a channel of communication with your child. The child asks, how is the earth going around the sun? You answer. You never ever say, I don't know. Or if you don't know, say that okay, I don't know, I will find out, or let's find out together. But let's not break this communication that the child has himself opened up towards us, because language is something that can only stay or only be taught if it is alive around the child. And communication at this age is the key to learning language. And communication will also help the child improve reading. Like Munira was mentioning, reading only comes at around 5 is when the reading really happens in the child. So this is the time to capitalize on that reading that has just started developing in the child. Ask the child to read. And this is the time, let's not give him just any, and this is the time when we give the child to read about anything and everything. If the child is asking about why are cows white, let's get a book on cows and see why is it white, or they can be black, or why cannot they be pink. So all these kind of questions can be answered through reading, through communication. The important aspect here is the child needs to know that the communication between the parent and him is very, very open, and he can use this language, and this will help him develop the vocabulary needed to communicate. Again, he's learning language there because he needs to express himself, and he will express himself when he knows that there is somebody to hear him, reciprocate, and carry on a conversation. So language in this age can be developed by two means, mainly communication and reading. And give the child all kinds of books. It can be about fire trucks, it can be about unicorns, it can be about wizards, it can be about trees. The child needs all kinds of information to gather together and express himself. And another very key aspect of language in this age is his ability to start writing. So since he's already started writing, we can ask the child to maintain a journal, maybe a diary, maybe, like I said, to express himself. We all also are like kind of like that, right? We express ourselves better through SMSs and messages than on a phone call. I mean, orally we may not be very happy talking about certain things. We don't broach such subjects. But you want to send a message, okay, I'll text you. This is the first thing we say, and we text each other. So let the child start writing, so that the language is again given the impetus, and he's given some kind of an impetus to write. And how do you do this writing while at home? Why don't you start using sticky notes or post-its? Let the child leave messages for you around the house. Okay, Mama, I'm going for a bath. Or, Mama, I've finished my breakfast. Small notes where he's just telling you what he's done. just so that the writing is happening still. And it's not so much that he's, oh my God, I have to write an essay on the cow. It's not like that. He can sit and write whatever he wants to write. And it's very small, simple one sentences, which are it's just fun. It's a two-way thing. Okay. So apart after writing, let's move on to the emotional development at this age as well. Now, how many of us have watched Avenger movies or any superhero movies in the theater? Most of us have. We don't want to say it out loud maybe, but yes, we do. And if you see, the theater is filled with a lot of children in these movies. And even if there are no children in that movie, the movie itself will have at least one scene where the superhero is interacting with a child. Any movie you see, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, any movie you take, there's at least one scene where the superhero is interacting with a child who is not more than 12 years of age. Around 10 years of age is what the child is generally. That is because children this age thrive on role models. They thrive on hero worship. They need somebody to look up to. And the whole movie industry has completely capitalized on it and made millions of money, millions of dollars in this, because the children this age want to look up to heroes. No, but superheroes are superheroes. They're fictional characters. They have superpowers, which we normal human beings don't have. But that doesn't mean the child doesn't have any role models to look up to in real life. Every person around him or her is a role model. And especially now in COVID times, we can bring this hero worship right to home. All that Tali Bajao, Diya Jalao that we did was nothing but catering to this hero worship of the child if we put in the right context. We thank the security guards, the delivery people, the doctors, the nurses, and all the people who are right now working. They are our heroes in the present time. Bring this to the consciousness of the child. That look, you are surrounded by heroes. While you are staying home and staying safe, you are surrounded by heroes you can look up to. This emotional development, that this will give the child the emotional support that he needs to even combat with the situation that he's in right now. Emotional support can be of, because the emotion, this age group has such a moral code, a moral compass that is so strong that they understand that doing this is the right and doing this is right and doing this is wrong. Now, let me give an example of that. You must have read the book Emperor's New Clothes, or at least heard the book, or somebody read it for you. In that book, for those of you who don't know, the emperor is tricked by two tailors. Emperor is a very proud guy, and he's tricked by two tailors saying, we've made this really elaborate robe for you that you can wear and walk around, where in fact it is nothing. He's not wearing anything. But the emperor has been given to believe that he's wearing some really nice clothes. So he walks around naked in the whole kingdom. And then nobody, because they're all adults and they're all very afraid of the emperor, nobody points out that he basically has no new clothes. But it's a child in the end of the book who points out that, look, hey, emperor, you don't have any new clothes. That's because, why does the child talk and not the entire kingdom of adults in the book? That's because the child is the only one who can call a spade a spade. His moral compass is so strong that he will say, if this is right, this is right. If this is wrong, if this is wrong. And you might have experienced it in your own life. Why should I not sit in the front seat of the car? Why is it that we have to go to this uncle's house when I want to rather play with my friends? Give me the reason. They want to know all this. Unless you give them the logic of things, they will not do things. It's a simple matter of dealing with this age group. Give them the reason to do something and they will do it. Tell them you better do it because I told you to do it. And I don't think you will have a very cooperative child on your hand. So help them emotionally grow by treating them as as children who have the ability to think and reason and understand and also emulate good behavior and better behavior. Now, moving on to the social development. Now, this has been very nicely categorized over all the age groups by Pavana and Munira, and I would like to just elaborate on that. In this age group, the children are already in school, and now friends are more important than family. For them, let's just go back to our own childhood. Forget any other example. Just go back to your own summer vacation in school during school time. Were you more happy staying outdoors rather than staying indoors? You would rather play with your cousins or your friends rather than sitting with your grandparents or your uncles and aunts who are all at home. It's not like nobody was at home. They're all home. But you would rather spend time with somebody your own age, because this age group thrives on group network. It thrives on support groups, if you want to call it that. And this is important at this age because a lot of pure learning happens at this age. I'll give you another true life example, true story of my own household. My younger brother was given a cycle by my father, and he says, "Okay, come on, today I'm going to teach you how to cycle." And my brother goes, "But I don't need you to teach me." And he's like, "Why? I have bought you a cycle to teach you." He's like, "I already know. My friend Varun has a cycle. I learned from him." This is pure learning at its basic level, where a child learns things without adults' intervention at all. That is what happens in a Montessori environment also in this age group, where children learn from each other, where they're not hesitant to ask a question and then get a reprimand or think that, and whenever the child asks a question to an adult and the adult solves the matter for him, it's more of a superiority that is being shown, or, the adult knows it all. He's above us in height and everywhere else. But when a child next to you answers the same questions and tells you the same, corrects you, it's much more organic, it's much more friendly, and nobody takes anything to their heart. No ego is involved, nothing is involved. So a lot of pure learning happens as part of social development at this age group. And now comes the most important developmental category of this age group, which in fact is what actually characterizes this age group. That's the intellectual development. From in the previous developmental age, which Manira took you through, the child has developed an independence to movement. He is very independent by himself. He's able to do things by himself, wash everything by himself. Now he's able to think for himself and is able to actually develop that intellect that is slowly, gradually being piled on. Now he's expanding that intellect. So how do you do that? How does this intellect work? This intellect works because the child is forever questioning. She always wants to know what is happening, wants to experiment, wants to experience, wants to explore. Like what touching was for for a young infant, how she explored with touch and feel. Imagination is the same, is what works for the 6 to 12-year-old, where through the imagination the child can develop intellect, will develop intellect. I'll give you a simple example. You can work it out today in your home if you have a 6 to 12-year-old child. Give them a pair of dice or even one dice and ask them to create a game. And they will come up with 5 different variations of the same game. Give them snakes and ladders and ask them to play it differently. They can play it differently. That is the capacity of imagination combined with intellect of this age group. And we can cater to that even during these lockdown times, sitting at home, giving them this opportunity to create their own experiments. Ask them to do an experiment. Ask them to create an artwork. Ask them to make a tune, compose a tune, make some music. All this will help the child develop an intellect and using the most powerful tool that she has at this age group, and that is imagination. And in the environment also, in the Montessori environment also, everything that we do from day one to until the day the child graduates, it's all centered on this power of imagination and how that can help build the intellect in the child. So this age group actually tells you that it's very nice age group for us adults to sit back and witness, because it tells you that things are very straightforward and simple. We are just making them too complicated for ourselves. So just that's what we can learn from this age group of 6 to 12 years old. And it's a great age to be with your children. It's a great age to learn from them and build a bond that will sustain you for the rest of your lives. Back to you, Pawan.
Thanks, Mridula and Munira, for sharing some amazing insights into 4 to 6, 6 to 12. We have 5 more minutes, so we can take some questions and we'll formally complete the session at 4 o'clock. After 4, if you still have questions, all 3 of us will be available till you are done with every question. All right? Great. So would you like to share something? Would you like to ask something? Any specific question with regard to what is spoken? If you have questions with regard to what is not spoken, we can do that after 4 o'clock. Next 5 minutes, let's take some questions regarding what we spoke. Who would like to go? So you can straight away unmute yourself and ask. By now, normally we are flooded with questions. So either you have not got anything, or you're totally overwhelmed, at least share that so that we know.
Hi Pavan,
Yeah.
Bandhwe this side.
Yeah.
Definitely it was overwhelming session,
Mhm.
and it's like lots of information, especially I mean catering that. I mean dividing that into 5 types of development and dividing as per the age group. It's overwhelming, I would say. But then just one interesting thing which synced with what my baby was doing in the recent times, shared by Mritila, like where she was mentioning about maybe you could actually allow them to play an obstacle game or something. I see her doing a lot in the recent times. She's 5.5 plus. She keeps
Mm.
on taking out the sofa cushions, putting it like an obstacle, playing it as a slide. So we are constantly telling her, please don't do, you get hurted. But then now I get that maybe I'm not supposed to do that. And it's actually
Brilliant.
that's her interest. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
That one thing, if you have got out of today's session, was worth you attending session and worth all the time we have put to make this session happen.
Mm,
If you can just,
yeah,
if we as parents, if we just understand how we can be an obstacle, if we can understand how we can be detrimental, and if you just
mm,
stop being detrimental, if each one of us just stop being detrimental for our children's growth and development, you actually don't have to do anything. The nature will take care of every aspect of their development. In current parenting culture with such high insecurity and instinct driven parenting, most of the actions of adults are being more detrimental than good for them. Thanks for sharing that, Manvi. All right.
yeah.
Who else?
Thank you.
Who else would like to
This
go
went.
next? Yeah, Venkat, please.
Yeah, I think whatever we discussed, I think I saw most of the stuff. Like they can create their own games, they can create some tunes out of it, and they do something differently, and they can ask some different questions.
Mhm.
All these things I observed, but the thing is, only concern I have is my child will stay longer time on doing any physical activity, but when we sit together and do some puzzle, something like that, hardly he will stay with me around 15 minutes, not more than that. After that, okay, let's you do it, I'll go and play differently.
All right.
So
How old is the child, Venkat Krishna?
it's 4 years, 4 plus.
4 years. All right. So for a 4-year-old child, doing one activity for 15 minutes is pretty decent, because at home, whatever activity material you have, we'll not get into detailing,
Yeah,
but for whatever material you have per activity, 15 minutes, and then child wants to do something else, totally fine.
fine.
Totally sounds good to me.
Yeah, I thought, doing some solving some puzzles and all, maybe they can go and behind that, but just
So slowly, so see now, like, so good that you are making that kind of observation. Really appreciate that. Start making some observational notes. 4 years, 15 minutes. See now, if the child is not focusing, there could be two things. There is lack of focus and concentration. Other way to look at it would be the material not being that interesting, enticing enough, which is not catering to the child's needs. Because if it caters to the child's need, then probably they can go much further at 4 as well.
yeah, could be that is also one reason. Maybe they're not interested.
Yeah, Munira would like to add something.
Yeah. So one of the ways of finding out whether, what is the reason, you can always check with your child, what is it that he or she wants to do. The more you get them, the more you ask them, the more insights you will get into what they really want and what their needs are at that time. So if your child says that, I want to jump little more, I want to play a little more, it clearly shows that the need is more for physical development and not so much to do that puzzle at that time.
Yeah, yeah,
and
spending a
and
lot of time on doing physical things, gymnastics, whatever it is, you can do like that.
and then with these activities at home, children end up having better focus and concentration when they choose the activity versus when we choose the activity for them.
Got it. Thank you.
That was a very interesting question, Venkat Krishna. I really appreciate you observing your child for focus and concentration, which majority of the parents miss out. They want children to read for long, but they don't understand how do we first build the ability to focus and concentrate. And it can only be built by doing activities which cater to their physical, emotional, psychological, intellectual, sensorial, and the motor needs. When an activity is catered to all their needs, is when they can focus and concentrate. Like in all our Montessori material and activities, every activity is designed is designed to cater to multiple needs at the same time. And that's when they focus and concentrate and develop that ability to focus and concentrate.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, hi. Actually, Kavin is now 8 years, like 8.5. He's going to be 9 now. From his birth or till now, I have been practicing to say good morning or good night or that kind of practice, and I wait for him till he tells by himself. I don't insist to tell me back or reply me back or tell to anyone. But then when can I? But even now he doesn't. I mean, he doesn't say good night, even though I say. So when can I expect, or should I insist, or should I leave it? At some point, he'll understand then, and he'll do it.
See, you keep doing. Ensure that not just you, but you, your husband, everybody at home, whatever you practice regularly, it will just become part of your child's personality at some point. If you're
Okay.
doing it consistently throughout everybody, all this will become part of your child's internal, the child will internalize all of this.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else? All right.
Yeah,
So it's
hi.
4 o'clock.
I have a
If you
question.
don't mind. Yeah. So it's 4 o'clock. Let me formally complete the session and then we can take your questions. So can you hold on,
Okay.
please?
No problem.
All
No
right.
problem.
All right, great. It was wonderful to have each one of you on this Zoom session today. Thank you so much for being part of these sessions. Your participation, your questions, the way you are getting more of your friends, relatives, colleagues on these calls is really, really inspiring us to put a lot more effort. We have our whole admin team working day and night to promote it, to spread, to plan these sessions. I would want everybody on this call to acknowledge our whole team today. All right, so I'm unmuting everybody. Can we acknowledge our team once?
Thank you. Thank you.
Several other sessions lined up for this whole week. If you do not have the link of the other sessions, reach out to Sheetal on 9009555053 and she will give you the links of other sessions. Let's spread this as much as possible. Let's ensure that every parent in the country is getting benefited out of these sessions. All right. Thank you so much. So for those of you who have to leave the session, feel free to leave. For those of you who have questions, stay back. For those of you who want to hear the others' question and answers, please stay back.